Hello, this is Colleen Pearl the Cool Crone, and welcome back to my channel. This video will cover all of the astrology for 2022 for the sign of Gemini. Hello Gemini, this is your astrology for the year 2022. This is your overview. I have also done a general astrological overview for 2022 for all signs that gets into what's really going on with the overarching themes having to do with the larger, slower moving planets in astrology for this year. But in this video, I'm just going to briefly touch on those and move right into the personal planets for you. If you'd like a personal forecast from me, please contact me. My information is in the description box below. Basically, just send me an email and we will get an astrological reading set up for you. All right, let's move into the astrology for 2022. All right, so first I'm going to talk about Pluto. Pluto is in your 8th house right now, Gemini, and it has been there for a very long time. Remember the number 24. 24 degrees of Capricorn is going to be a very important degree for 2022, so you want to remember that number. Anywhere in your chart that you find 24 degrees of Capricorn is going to be extremely critical and important. But you already have been feeling Pluto and Capricorn in your 8th house for many years, so I'm not going to go into detail with that. But I am going to say that it's coming to the end of Capricorn, and as it moves into your 9th house, that's when you may begin to decide that you're going to move to a foreign country, or you're going to go back to your country of origin, or perhaps you're going to change careers completely and go back to school. Something having to do with, if you have businesses in the internet, you may completely, let them go and start a new one or something. Any 9th house matters with Pluto coming into it. Pluto will make a sacrifice out of something, and it will cause you to give up something in that area of life. Neptune is in Pisces, and that's your 10th house. So having Neptune in Pisces in your 10th house, Gemini, means that by now you have probably altered your career to have something to do with the ocean, or fish, or water, or art, or dance, or spiritual and clairvoyant matters. So you most likely have altered your career path so that you can include a lot of these Neptune and Pisces themes. Neptune is going to remain in Pisces for a few more years, so that will not be wasted energy. That will be excellent. And you also were going to have Jupiter there, so we're going to talk about Jupiter in a few minutes. But I just want to let you know that Neptune in Pisces in your 10th house makes it an exceptional place for you to really focus on giving and charitable endeavors. So anything that you can do towards giving and charitable endeavors in your career will be very, very beneficial. Also, I just want to say that Neptune in Pisces in your 10th house can also be very good for healing. So anything in your career that has to do with healing will really, really be focused on, but also will be very beneficial for you. Uranus is in Taurus, and this is going to be in your 12th house, meaning that all sorts of crazy dreams have been visited upon you. All sorts of interesting, unusual people have been not visited upon you, but are a part of your realm and people that you don't see in everyday life. So the 12th house usually represents either people that are forgotten or people that you don't see very often, and it also rules your dreams and the subconscious and spiritual matters. It can also sometimes represent people who are at a great, great distance from you, say way, way far away from you, like on another continent. Uranus there in the 12th house, it's been there for a few years. You're probably used to it by now, but it also be affecting and inspiring your spirituality, and that's not a bad thing. Uranus is the planet for inspiration from on high. It connects you to the angels. So I would not at all be surprised, Gemini, if you routinely speak to angels, if you routinely have connection to the divine, and if you understand your connection to the divine very, very well. This will continue to go on for a couple of more years. Saturn is still going to be squaring Uranus in 2022, and Saturn for you is in your 9th house, and Uranus, as we just said, is in your 12th house. So Saturn in your ninth house has been restricting your movement to other countries, restricting your ability to learn new things, restricting your ability to work on the internet, or at least putting a lid on things. Alternatively, Saturn does not have to only be restriction or separation or delay. Saturn can also mean obligations and responsibilities. So it could be that you've been working very, very hard on, say, a higher degree, or going to some sort of big vocational school, or doing something online that you're training for, and there's been delays. But you've also had a lot of determination and commitment to seeing it through. Now, with Uranus squaring Saturn all this time, I would imagine that it has been challenging. But with great challenges come great rewards, and Saturn is no exception to that rule. Saturn does bring gifts, Gemini, so if you stick it out, you will be rewarded. Now let's talk about the personal planets. So Mercury is retrograding 4 times in the year of 2022. And in every instance except the last one, it's going from an air sign to an earth sign. So Gemini, you should be really happy about this, because having Mercury retrograde in air signs just makes it a little bit easier for you to understand it. So the first retrograde is happening mid-January, and it's starting out at 10 degrees 19 minutes Aquarius, and it's going to move all the way back to 24 degrees 23 minutes of Capricorn. While Mercury is retrograding in Aquarius, it's going to be talking about big, lofty things. It's going to be talking about big goals, big changes, things that are good for people, things that can happen to a lot of different people. And it's not going to be concerning itself with conversations that have very much to do with the individual, except when it comes to the individual's freedoms. So their individual liberties, their individual freedoms, all those things will be a part of the conversation, just not like who they went out on a date with. It would have more to do with, you know, how do they change the dating world online or something having to do with humanity. As it moves into Capricorn, it becomes much more down to earth and practical. When Mercury is retrograde in the earth signs, it forces you to walk the walk and talk the talk. So Capricorn, with Mercury retrograde there, is going to attempt to make something that's productive. Earth signs like to be productive. They like to show a product. They don't they don't think it's very worthwhile to just talk about things. They want to see you produce things. So when Mercury goes into Capricorn, you're going to see that very same person who was talking about humanity and feeding the masses and all that stuff actually start the process of opening up a soup kitchen or something. They're going to do something hands-on. They are also going to do things like repair small things around the house, attend to tasks that didn't get done before. So it's gonna pick up things and wrap up things, finish to-do lists, repair little things that are broken, stuff like that. In May, we have Mercury retrograding from 4 degrees 51 minutes Gemini back to 26 degrees 5 minutes, and that's only about a little over 10 degrees, so it's really a small window. But 26 degrees of Taurus by June. So when this retrograde happens, it's all going to be about the conversation and learning. So Gemini is all about communication and the conversation. What can we talk to each other about? And what are you learning? What did you learn today? What are you learning tomorrow? What do you want to learn? What did you get from that conversation with that person? What did you get from watching them walk down the street? Gemini is all about learning, learning, learning. And their mind, by the way, your mind, Gemini, moves about 500 times faster than anybody else's. And so you have space in your brain to fill all that stuff in. Some of us, we get filled up and then we don't have enough room for anything else. When the Gemini retrograde moves into Taurus, you're going to find a similar thing from Aquarius to Capricorn. You're going to find that all those little conversations that had been misunderstood and not quite picked up on will turn into action. You'll see them turning into cooking meals for people around them, having them sit down at their dining room table, inviting them to their home, inviting them to come over and they'll fix that rip on their sleeve, or they'll sew that button on their blouse. They'll do something really practical and down to earth for people. So you'll find the Mercury retrograde in Taurus is very practical, very down to earth, wants to really, again, wants to produce something, wants to have a finished product in their hand before the conversation ends. And then in September, we have Mercury in Libra retrograding back to Virgo. So it starts out on the 9th of September at 8 degrees 55 Libra and moving all the way back to 24 degrees of Virgo on October 2nd. When Libra has the Mercury retrograde, we find that everything is negotiable. They want to negotiate everything. They want to talk about it. They want to arbitrate it. They want to make a deal. They are not really just talking and coming to conclusions and making decisions. Now, Libra's not good even on their best day at making decisions. So this negotiation thing under Mercury retrograde is probably going to drive everybody nuts because nothing definitive is going to be done. Once it moves into Virgo, however, you'll see how definitive things really get. But Virgo is going to deal with things on a very tiny, detailed, meticulous basis. So Virgo wants to fix the jewelry, wants to fix the watches, wants to get the watches out, wants to clean the watches, wants to look at all the little tiny things that they can make and repair, and does not want to talk about the negotiation. Or if they do talk about the negotiation, they will come to an actual decision about it and they will have a judgment on it. So that's the difference between Mercury Libra retrograde and Mercury Virgo retrograde. And that's what we're going to see in September into October. The final retrograde of the year is going to be just plain old Mercury retrograde in Capricorn, and it's going to start 2 days before the end of the year on December 29th. And this is again where we're going to see a Mercury retrograde where people, even though they know it's Mercury retrograde, they're going to want to have something productive at the end of the day. So they're going to try to fix the doorknob, fix the faucet, fix the toaster, fix this, fix that, repair things, redo things, reanalyze things, whatever. They'll take out their business plan and redo it. And those are things that we can understand. When Mercury retrograde only goes through one sign, it's not as hard to understand how to deal with that retrograde as it is when Mercury is going through 2 signs during the retrograde. However, I do find that going from air to earth is a somewhat easier transition to make than most, because the air tends to be so unresolved in things and the earth tends to resolve them, if that makes sense. The next thing we're going to talk about is Venus, and Venus begins her time of her year up with Pluto up in Capricornville. So Venus is going to be in your 8th house, Gemini, and that's good for joint resources. That means there might be some extra money coming in. And while Jupiter was conjunct Pluto in December, you probably did have some big bonuses coming in, maybe an extra dividend check, maybe you got a raise, maybe you started a new business, maybe you got some kind of a bonus for something at the end of the year and you've put it into your joint resources, because your joint resources are going to be very, very happy at the very beginning of 2022. Venus did go retrograde in December, so there might be some other ways that you have earmarked that money that came in. Maybe it's not just going into joint resources. Maybe it's being used for, say, redoing the bathroom or something. Maybe it's already spent, in other words. And that would be a typical thing with Venus retrograde in Capricorn, that you do get money, but you've already got it spent. Now, while Venus is retrograde in Capricorn, while it's in Capricorn in general, it will trine by sign the planet Uranus, which is good. It means that you've got some inspiration there, and you've got some surprising actions that are going to happen, which you may not love the surprising actions when it comes to joint resources, but you will love the surprising inspiration that you get out of Uranus. Once Venus finishes her retrograde, staying, even after the retrograde, ends up staying in Capricorn until early March. And then she spends March and almost the rest of the year flitting through all the other signs of the zodiac, ending up the year as she started it in Capricorn. So I guess in 2022, Venus just wants to stay in Capricorn, and she does everything she can to spend most of her time in Capricorn. So you've got really the first 3 months and the last month or so in Capricorn. So that's pretty awesome for Venus. She kind of likes it there. She likes all that money stuff going on. She likes the shiny. Then let's talk about Mars. Mars retrogrades not until October of this year, but it starts out in January with Mars and Sag. And this may seem like a really fun place to have Mars. Sagittarius is the party sign. It's the sign that likes to do things up big. Mars combined with the energies of Sagittarius can run into bullying energy, so you want to be a little bit careful with that. However, aside from the party aspects of Sagittarius, don't forget that Sagittarius is also the sign of the judge. So we will have a big serious side to this placement. We'll have a focus on legal issues, philosophical arguments, justice, fairness. So Mars is also going to see to all of those issues as well. At the end of January, Mars moves into Capricorn, where he just loves to be. He spends about 2 months there. Then he goes really quick through Pisces, goes in Aries for a couple of months, Taurus for a couple of months. Then when he gets to Gemini, he spends 8 weeks normal in Gemini, and then that's when he retrogrades at the end of October at 2537 Gemini, and he moves all the way back to 8 degrees 8 minutes Gemini. But that isn't until January of 2023. So Mars only gets through 6 signs in 2022, but he starts out in Sag and he ends in Gemini, and these are 2 really great signs. So we're going to enjoy Mars all year long. And let's go on to Jupiter and Pisces. So Jupiter and Pisces, Pisces is going to fall on your 10th house. And so we talked a little bit about this at the beginning of this video, that Jupiter is going to be in your career house, which is going to blow things up. It's going to, not in a bad way, in a really good way. It's going to make things expand. It's going to make things bigger. And Jupiter in Pisces is a sign of giving and charity. So this is really not only really good for your career, but it's good for you as a person of note who wants to give back. Now in, let's see, when is this? 10th week of April, we have Jupiter conjuncting Neptune, and this will be an outstanding time for spiritual awakening. But we will have some extremes of weather. There is also in May when Jupiter goes into Aries into October. So from May to October, Jupiter is going to be in Aries. And this is going to introduce you to your new self as leader. So Gemini, while you may not think of yourself as a leader, you will start to think of yourself as a leader as Jupiter moves into Aries. Now, you may not feel like a leader at your career or in your job, but in groups that you're a part of, you will be the leader of the group from here on out. And it may be a position that you're not completely comfortable with, but you'll get comfortable with it as Jupiter spends time in the sign of Aries. Jupiter will finish the year at 1 degree Aries, meaning it gets all the way up to 8 degrees of Aries, and then it will retrograde for a few months. And by the end of the year, when it comes back through Aries, it's only 1 degree Aries. So when it's retrograding, it gets way deep into Pisces. So we're going to feel a lot more of that familiar Jupiter in Pisces energy for the last part of 2022. Saturn in Aquarius. Saturn will begin the year of 2022 at 12 degrees Aquarius. On June 4th, he will retrograde at 25 degrees of Aquarius, and on October 23rd, he will station direct at 18 degrees Aquarius. He will end the entire year at 22 degrees Aquarius, which means during the year of 2022, Saturn really only navigates between 12 and 22 degrees of Aquarius, and it just keeps going back and forth over those degrees because of the retrograde. So your house for Aquarius is the 9th house, and this is the house that I mentioned before. You may feel a little delays at things having to do with the internet, or you may be feeling obligation and responsibility, or you may feel extreme focus, or you may feel restriction, or you may feel delays, like you just can't get it off the ground, like it's just not working for you. So that's your 9th house. That has to do with foreign travel, foreign cultures, foreign cooking, foreign languages, the publishing industry, the legal industry, the internet and space and higher learning and higher mysteries. So any of those areas of life where if you have Saturn in Aquarius between 12 and 22 degrees, you may be really feeling like you're not getting anything off the ground in 2022. But you will, once it moves on. 2023 will be fabulous, and Saturn will bring his rewards. Then we come to April 30th, which is a solar eclipse in Taurus. It's at 10 degrees 28 minutes Taurus, and it will be conjunct Uranus. So this is what I am predicting, that this solar eclipse will be the fulcrum of the year. Now, as you know, if you've watched my videos about solar eclipses, very often big major events don't happen on the solar eclipse, but you can look back at the degrees of the involvement of the planets on the solar eclipse to see that they were the impetus, the instigation of future events. Or you could find events that happened before an eclipse and they echo back to the degrees that the planets were in at the time of a solar eclipse. So solar eclipses really become defining moments for us, even though things may not happen right on that day. So thank you so much for watching, Gemini. Please leave your comments down below. I'm so glad that you took the time to watch my video. And again, if you're looking for a personal reading for 2022, just send me an email and we will set something up. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.